Hi, good morning to you and happy Monday. Super excited to be joining together today. I am actually looking like my screen. Bear with me. One moment. Looks like my screen is like blurry, so just cleaning it there. But happy Monday to you, and hopefully that's a little clearer. Really, we're rolling here on this Monday morning, and again, we keep talking about this, but it's like, there's just such a charged up atmosphere around us. I don't know if you guys are feeling that, but for me personally, it's like the rhythms that we've all set in our lives feels like we're having to increase some of those rhythms of rest. Are you guys feeling that? And so it's like, I don't know about you, but I've set a lot of standards in my life to stay in balance, both physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Good morning, Jessica. So good to see you. Good morning, Rebecca. Happy Monday. We're rolling here in the Toledo office. Our week's rolling, so I hope you're joining us. But it's been fascinating because in the last few months, the standard rhythms of rest that I've set in my life, like, to be perfectly honest, it has felt very, I've still felt this like unsettling, you know what I mean? It's like, I have workout time that I do every week. I set very strict boundaries around a Sabbath day. I do quiet time every morning. Good morning, Tina. So good to see you, my friend. And it's just been fascinating because there's been this like real unsettling feeling, like almost like these tectonic, I'm not sure that I'm even saying that right, but in an earthquake, when these plates are shifting and it actually creates an earthquake, like, is anyone feeling like, oh my word, it just feels like these plates are shifting under? And a lot of that is just disruption of schedules. It's like we nail a schedule at our house, right? Morning, Andrea. So good to see you, my friend. And we nail this schedule at my house, and then my son is like, okay, football practice got changed, my work schedule got changed, all of these shifts. So you try to get back into a rhythm, and then, okay, we're not going to school 2 days a week, now we're doing online school, so you're just constantly, all of these things are shifting around us, right? And so I was really like conversing with the Lord. I've been talking with him about it, and a couple of things I just want to collaborate, and discuss today, really. And I'd love to hear how you're feeling. So leave that in the comments below and any insights the Lord's giving you. But, a couple of things that he said to me is there is a great shaking going on right now. This is a season of great shaking in our nation. Clearly we can see that. Like, I don't have to tell you that today, right? But there's this crazy shaking in our nation. There's this crazy shaking in the Church of America. But I was asking him because I was like, Lord, this really shouldn't be allowed to come into our lives. Like, if this is not of you, then there should be no way that this could come in our lives, right? But what I feel like he said to me was, I'm allowing this great shaking in areas of the lives of my ecclesia and my church because I want to do something. And so I don't know about you, but I love to read the Psalms. Like, the Psalms are so rich. They're so full of nutrients. It's like you could just feast on one psalm. You could feast on one psalm. At least I could for days or weeks. And so I've been going through this psalm, and this is something that I want to bring to you this morning and submit to you. Out of Psalm 17, it says this: O Lord, so let's go up to verse 13. Rise up, O Lord, confront them, bring them down. Okay, so that's been like the cry of our heart, like as we look out at what's going on in our culture, it's like, Lord, rise up, confront the evil, bring them down, rescue me from the wicked by your sword. O Lord, by your hand you save me from such men, from men of this world whose reward is in this life, right? And so what's fascinating and what I want you to catch, we're going to talk about this morning, this is the verse that like just leaped off the page, and it brought so much peace and comfort to my heart, and I'm hoping it brings that to you today. It says this: you still the hunger of those you cherish. Okay, did you catch that? You still the hunger of those you cherish. Their sons have plenty, and they store up wealth for their children. And I, in righteousness, I will see your face. So the only way we can see God's face, the only way we can hear him and enter into that place is because of his righteousness, right? Because he shed his blood on the cross so that we could enter in like that high priest did. So in a New Testament hour, we're a royal priesthood, a holy nation, set apart, right? And so in righteousness, I will see your face. When I awake, I will be satisfied with seeing your likeness. Okay, so how does that speak to us today? Well, I got my little notes here because you guys know, like, I love the Hebrew. I love to look at Greek words. Why? Because an English word is not nearly as descriptive as other languages. And so when we can look at the Hebrew, look at the Greek, if you want to start that journey, blueletterbible.org, very simple, and it's free. We love free, right? Blueletterbible.org is where you can start. But I want you to catch the definition for be still, okay? So this verse, listen to this. You still, so Lord, you still the hunger of those you cherish. And so I feel like what's going on inside of us is there's this inner hunger, like we're not satisfied. We're not satisfied with the normal rhythms of life. We're not satisfied with the normal things that we've placed in our life. And God is allowing this holy dissatisfaction. He's allowing this holy hunger, if you will. He is allowing that in each of our lives. Why? Because he wants us to see his face, right? And so when we look at this Hebrew word for still, this is what it means. I want you to catch this. Generally denotes the completion of something that was empty, referred to the placement of an object into a receptacle. So it's actually two Hebrew words. So you still the hunger. Both still and hunger are the same two Hebrew words. And so catch that with me. It literally denotes a receptacle that's empty. Okay, hold on to that. That's significant. The second Hebrew word, it's from an unused Hebrew root meaning to be hollow, the belly, the womb of the inmost part. So what does this mean? It's so beautiful, you guys. In the Hebrew, what it's saying is we all have this inmost part that oftentimes we might refer to as our belly. David talks about our inmost part. For you created my inmost being. You, O Lord, knit me together in my mother's womb. And so, yes, we have obviously this physical body, but there's this inmost being inside each of us that's literally, it's like a receptacle, okay? It's this hollow thing. And what the Lord is saying here, actually the psalmist is saying to the Lord, you still the hunger of those you cherish. And so what does that mean? That means that you fill that hollow receptacle. You satisfy. There's a hunger that is created, not a physical hunger, but there is a hunger that's created because of this empty receptacle of the inmost being that God created us with. There's this hunger, there's this desire, and only he can fill that. And so in verse 14, the psalmist is saying, you still the hunger of those you cherish. Their sons have plenty in their store. They store up wealth for their children. But secondly, and I in righteousness, I will see your face. When I awake, I will be satisfied with seeing your likeness. And so what the Lord has been saying to me is, yes, there is this hunger. There is in your inmost being, Christy, all the rhythms that you've put in place and you've operated in this season. I am increasing those. I am increasing this inmost place. I am increasing this hunger so that you will dive into that spiritual place where only I can fill you. Okay? So I really encourage you this morning, for those that are feeling these tectonic plates, feel like they're shifting under your feet and you're trying, you're wobbling. The Lord is allowing that for a reason. He is allowing that for you to dive into that place in greater capacity and greater measure. The second thing I want to share as we conclude is we do this daily prayer call we call it the high noon prayer call, okay? At Enkindle, we do this, and we have different leaders that lead every day, Monday through Friday. Then we do a Wednesday evening one at 6 p.m. and a Sunday morning one at 8 a.m. And you guys, these prayer calls for me are often, they're like lifelines. Like in the middle of my day, I'll think so many times, like, I have too much to do, and then the Lord's like, no, this is where you need to position yourself. And so every time I get on these prayer calls, they're so strengthening, and they bring so much stability to the day, all of these things. And so what's so fascinating about this is we go throughout the week, and different people meet on these prayer calls, but I sometimes will be on multiple calls, and I'll start hearing a theme of what the Holy Spirit is speaking. Why? Because there's different leaders on each prayer call, but there's this hem of a theme that goes throughout the week. So as I go from prayer call to prayer call, or even other prayer groups, I'll start noticing this theme, and it's like really cool to me, because I'm like, whoa, like the Holy Spirit has to be speaking this, because this is a totally different group of people, and they're saying the same thing, right? And so one of the things that I've heard and noticed, and even personally in my own life, is that we are in, so many of us, we're in this waiting season, okay? And so we are waiting on the Lord, and there's this literal hunger inside of us, okay? And some things might be practical, like for example, for us, we have moved to Ohio, and we've been waiting for a house. We've been trying to buy a house for over a year, put 3 offers in, none of them worked out. We still are, waiting for that promise, but that hasn't worked out yet. And so there's like literally this inner hunger inside of us to be rooted and established in a house. Especially when your landlord comes to you and says, okay, I want to sell this house, I need you out. Then you start really feeling the pressure, like, Lord, okay, like literally we're going to be homeless here soon. So can you please come through? And so for us, there's this very practical waiting, and it's like the desire of our hearts to have this home where we can really root. And it hasn't happened yet. We're still waiting. We're still waiting for this promise. And so many of you, you're waiting for a promise, whatever that promise is. Maybe it's something physical. Maybe it's spiritual. Maybe you're believing for a loved one. You're believing for a prodigal return, whatever the waiting is. But literally in the waiting, this is what the Lord spoke to me. This is a global season where He is creating this holy hunger in our inmost being, and in the waiting, it's like stirring this desire. And so literally, you guys, like, I don't know about you, but like sometimes after the workday, it's like you're starving and you like rush home and you're looking at all of these possibilities while you're cooking dinner because you're so hungry. And then you smell the food cooking, and for me, I'm like, okay, don't succumb to like the potato chips and the Cheez-Its, because those are just so easy to like grab out of the cupboard, right? And you're starting to eat those. I'm like, wait for the nutritious food. Like, wait for the roasted Brussels sprouts. That's my favorite. wait for those to be done because that's going to be so nutritious. But literally there's this hunger that's created in the waiting, right? You're smelling the food. And I really feel like globally as an ecclesia, so many of us are in this waiting phase. We're waiting on a physical promise, or we're waiting on a spiritual promise. We're believing for a restoration in our family. We're believing for restoration in our cities. Yes. Okay, so the toasted Cheez-Its, Rebecca, are really like off the charts. Okay, so yeah, those are every person's weakness. Come on, Rebecca. So anyway, we're all waiting on this promise, and I really believe that in this season, the Lord is creating this hunger in our inmost being that only He can fill. And we have to come to verse 15 of Psalm 17 that says, "And I, in righteousness, I will see your face. When I awake, I will be satisfied with seeing your likeness." And truly, in this waiting period, in the inmost being, food is not going to fill that, much to my own disappointment, okay? I'm with you. Food is not going to fill that. There's a hunger in our inmost being that He's created that only He can fill, right? Okay, so that face was for the Brussels sprouts, not the Cheez-Its. That makes more sense. Okay, Brussels sprouts are amazing, but only He can fill this, you guys. And so He's literally creating this hunger and this, yes, we're waiting on promises, but don't you know, like He breathed the earth into existence. Don't you know that He can give us our promises and wants to give us our promises, but in that inner appetite in the spirit that He wants to fill that in this season. And I've even heard, you know, like Daniel, in Daniel, there was this major battle going on where the Lord wanted to answer, had already answered the prayer request and sent angels, but there was a war in the heavenlies. And I really believe that for many of us, the answer is already on its way, but there's this war going on in the heavenlies. And the only way is for us to run into that secret place. That is the only way that hunger in the inmost being is going to be satisfied. And so I wanted to bring that to you today because that's honestly where I'm at. That's what's speaking to my own heart. And I believe globally that's where the ecclesia stands, the Church of America in this season. And so I encourage you that in the waiting, when you have these hunger pains where you're like, I cannot wait another second. Okay, waiting is a verb. I can't wait another second to dive into this place that only He can fill. And so let's just pray together as we start off our week. So Father, I thank You for every listener, oh God. I thank You, Lord, that in Your infinite wisdom and knowledge, oh God, that You've created this appetite in our inmost being that only You can fill. And we are hungry for You. And this appetite can only be quenched in our inmost being. Only You satisfy. It's only in those moments where we see Your face that we are satisfied. And so God, thank You for that inner appetite that You're creating and increasing. You're literally increasing it over each of us. And so God, I pray that we would establish those moments where we dive in and we see You face to face and we hear Your voice, oh God. We thank You and praise You. Hey, last thing I want to do, I want to invite you this Friday. I'm doing a totally free Zoom class Friday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern time to noon. And we're going to talk about some city taker strategies. You can register online. Again, it's free. I look forward to seeing you. What we'll do is we'll share the registration link in the comments below. And I hope that you'll join us. So great to see you, Miss Debbie. Believing for Your promise with you. I know waiting is a verb. Waiting is a verb. And so we're flexing those spiritual muscles of resiliency in the waiting. I hope you guys have a great week. I'll see you soon.